behaviour will make you go and sit on that naughty stool. You've got to learn just to talk and ask Mummy. Do you understand me?
Yes.
We have all heard of the terrible twos, but are toddler tantrums the result of bad parenting, or is that behavior in a child's genes? New research suggests that tantrums and aggressive behavior is already there in a child. Genetics we're talking about. You remember her from the show Super Nanny. Global parenting expert Joe Frost and mom and comedian Carolyn Castilla join us. Joe, I'm so happy that you're here. I used to watch your show before I had kids and think to myself, you know what, I'm never having kids. But then you would come into the scene and you were like this baby whisperer. How did you do it? What is the trick?
Well, I think it's really important for us to really understand as parents where the temper tantrum is coming from. You know, let's identify, you know, and communicate and recognise that every time our child has a temper tantrum, it's a learning opportunity for us to understand our toddler better and to be able to communicate with them better. I certainly know from spending years in America helping families that you've got to be able to identify that tantrum. Are they having a situational tantrum where they don't want to leave the park? They think that, you know, you're not going to take them back there again. Is it a mock tantrum? Are they recognising that they can kind of blow themselves up and behave irrational so that they can achieve their desire? Or is it emotional? Do children have emotional meltdowns to the point where we have to recognise what's happened? Are we moving house? Perhaps there's a new baby. Perhaps there's been a death in the family.
A lot of factors.
If we can identify that, then it really helps us to understand.
And Joe, I think about you with my 4-year-old and the way you would kind of get down to their level and speak to them. What do you make of this study? Do you think it really comes down to nature versus nurture? And do you believe in the predisposition of children? Are they born a certain way and then you can facilitate that or kind of cut it off? What's your take on the study?
Well, I think it's certainly true that we can look at our children and say, oh, we definitely know that this particular child has got my temperament, or, you know, the second born has their father's temperament. And we, you know, we recognise their little personalities growing and we can see their temperaments and see maybe a mini us. But my message really is that as parents, we have to take responsibility for our children's behaviour and we have to recognise how we shape so that we can help our children regulate their emotions and to be more articulate and to explain where they're really feeling frustrated or hurt or upset. And that's the difference in recognising how that can spiral out of control or not.
Joe, I wanted to get Carolyn in. Carolyn, do you have a question for the expert, the baby whisperer, if you will?
Well,
Your
actually,
mom.
I just want to add to what Joe was saying. First of all, Joe, I also watched your show religiously before my daughter was born, and I practiced saying, this behavior is unacceptable. And I had a line ready, go to the naughty kitchen and do the naughty dishes while Mommy takes a naughty nap. I don't know if I screwed that up or not,
accent.
but that's what I got from your show. But anyway, no, I love you, and I agree with all of your philosophies, and I used them when my daughter was little. And then I discovered that my daughter's tantrums were a little bit more intense than other children. And so to kind of build off of the be sweet but firm thing, I read this book called The Explosive Child, which I highly recommend for anybody who's dealing with tantrums in older children or tantrums that are a little over the top, because it gives you tools to use, like distracting them or really kind of what Joe was saying, getting down to the heart of the issue. Sometimes a tantrum is about one thing on the surface, but the child is really actually upset about something else, and they need you to get down to that nugget of what's really on their mind.
Joe, what's your take on rewarding, or a nicer way of saying bribery? If you do this, you'll get a lollipop. Is that a good way?
What
to kind
parent
of
hasn't done that?
I've done it.
You know, what parent hasn't bribed coming out of the doctors or, you know, being quiet on the aeroplane? I mean, look, every parent's done it. But I think the most important thing to remember as a parent is that you want to set the example. You want your children to understand socially acceptable behaviour by the examples and the teachings you set as parents. and not recognize that this behavior is conditioned based on a bribe, you know, and that the fulfillment that it actually gives, the achievement that when we behave a certain way, we enjoy friendships, we enjoy what we get out from the experience. And that's far more important as really the lesson that we want to teach our children as you know, they're growing up.
Joe, I only have a couple seconds left, but I want to get this in from Facebook. Troy says this. He has a question. My youngest will throw a tantrum with my wife. What's the best way for her to respond? And please don't say, just leave them there. What's your answer to Troy?
Well, I think really is what's important is for your wife to understand why your child's having the tantrum. What is it that he's trying to achieve? And how do you behave before, during and after? Because that will give you a lot of information in how you respond to the next tantrum. It's all about taking temper tantrums as a learning opportunity for us to bridge the gap between us and our children and understand them more as parents.
Joe, great advice and so much to talk about. I have like 10 more questions for you. Thank you so much. You do a great job.
Thank you.
If you're looking for more parenting advice from Joe, or is being a nanny your dream job, head to hlntv.com for more from Joe. Thanks so much.